I'm gonna say it. At its core, Scarlet and Violet are fun games. It's just a shame that they are the most unpolished entries to come out of the mainline Pokemon franchise. But you know what? I could overlook that because as long as the game didn't have horrible controls, frustrating cameras, and unplayable glitches, I could stomach it. In fact, it's sadly funny to see some things like this from the most profitable thing alive. This unfinished game will be overshadowed in the future, but these designs will continue with the series. I wish we could give them a yellow version makeover, but we're not that lucky. We've had poor designs before, you know. Yeah, but the amount here takes the cake. But let's make this clear. This list is based purely on the design. It has nothing to do with their stats or if they're good in battle. And the designs are a mixture of bad, lazy, or it makes me laugh. Oh, and there might be a few spoilers. Not story-wise, just the Pokemon themselves. Alright, let's start it off!
10th place.
No, that's not the rock mushroom from Super Mario Galaxy 2. That's a salt rock Pokemon that becomes Minecraft. We've had rocks with arms and boulders with little feet, but somehow just only having what looks like a hat feels off to me. They could have given it some salt dust clouds around it for added effect, but it's a little late for that. Maybe even a tail or something, who knows? At least it has good abilities. I don't want to harp on this one too much, I'm just not that impressed visually, as I really did think it came from the wrong franchise. It just barely makes the list, as I feel they could have done a little more, but thankfully I find it inoffensive but lacking, especially when compared to the rest of the entries.
9th place.
I wonder how many other people felt this way, but Veluza looks like it came from the polygonal days of the N64. All sharp edges, no round points except for maybe the eyes, and a pretty boring color palette. It's like the dev said, remember when people hated Bruxious? We overcompensated for that 2 generations later. Same typing too. Even the basic pattern around the fish just feels like it doesn't stand out enough. It can lose some parts around it, but you only see it for a brief moment in action. And while I don't want to go over stats in this video, I have to bring up that its speed in the overworld doesn't represent its actual speed stat. It can be that fast, but only if you use Aqua Jet or fill it away. Just a friendly heads up warning so you don't feel like you got hit by false advertising.
8th place.
Anyone else remember that Did You Know Gaming video where they talked about a hypothetical car Pokemon? We got part of one. I'll admit, the design isn't so bad that it can't be good in some way, but they really went there, and the tongue part puts it too far in the silly side for me to take seriously. Go ahead, share this with someone who knows about Pokemon and wait for their expression. I remember watching a friend accidentally screen share this and spoiling it, and everyone in the call had a good laugh because, how could we not? Of all the things we weren't sure of, we never saw this one coming until it blindsided us. Sure, we got a bike Pokemon this time, but at least it looks like a Pokemon with a feature. We've had Pokemon take over inanimate objects, but at least they were ghost types. This is a Poison Steel type for both Varoom and Revaroom, effectively making an Alpha Werecar from Futurama. This feels like someone lost a bet, and everything else but the engine and wheels.
7th place.
Yep, your eyes do not deceive you. They basically recolor Tentacool and turn the tentacles into legs, and when it runs away, see you later, Cubert. I just can't look past that. In fact, if you give it the squeaky shoes sound effect, and now you see where I'm coming from. This is more of the, it looks like some kind of cartoon character from Wacky Land than something you would expect to battle with your Pokemon. This doesn't make me go, are you serious? This just makes me laugh, but I don't think that was the intention. And if that really is its shiny form, then that one came from Timeless River. Really hard to unsee that now, isn't it?
6th place.
Oh, come on! This doesn't even look like it had some effort put into it! White mice, little clothing, that's it. I look at Tandemaus, and all it does is make me think of those blank toys that you could draw on. Now, if you could do that yourself, then I would think, oh, okay, they want the full reference. Otherwise, it's 2 white mice with no patterns, and yeah, one wears a shirt and the other wears pants, but the colors are so faded, you have to squint to see them. At least it has different forms when the family gets larger, and I think that's cute. But that's about it, and typically small things are usually seen as cute anyways, so it doesn't get much of a uniqueness in that department. It does get a bit of pinkish hue around the mouth when it opens wide, and it's a shame they didn't do something like give it different hue colors for other expressions. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that it just doesn't have the look of a Pokemon. You can put this in another game or cartoon, and it wouldn't feel too out of place. But Pokemon are supposed to have a more special and unique look than this.
5th place.
Once again, this list isn't whether the Pokemon sucks or something like that, just how lazy or how laughable the design is. Case in point, I can't believe this is a Pokemon. I actually really like Flamigo. I enjoy the typing, I caught it very early in the game, and it practically took on almost all the Elite Four members. But there's no dancing around the fact that it looks almost indistinguishable from, at the very least, a cartoon Flamingo. No patterns, no feathers folding up to look like a punching glove, no stance looking like it's ready to tussle, no fire in its eye, just a knot around its neck, and that's it. Players have every right to point to this one as the poster boy for how uncreative they were with some of the Pokemon this time. I actually had this one lower on the list, but considering I had more to say about it, it sadly climbed up the list. But thankfully, I find the next 4 to be untouchable in terms of placement, giving my amigo a small break. Yeah, it'll definitely be on my list of favorite Paldea Pokemon. Galar list? Yep, still gotta make that one beforehand, don't I?
4th place.
We need new ideas for Pokemon! Think, people, think! Inspiration! Wow. Just wow. Go ahead, tell someone who isn't a fan that this is a Pokemon. In fact, go ahead and tell a fan this is a Pokemon! One will look at you and go, really? And the other will look away in shame. Take a guess at whose reaction is whose. It's at least part ghost type, as most inanimate looking Pokemon are, as I brought up earlier, but this one is crossing the line for me. And if it hasn't crossed yours yet, then let me ask you, what would it take? I've heard that tumbleweeds aren't exactly native to Japan. If true, then someone needs to tell them they are primarily used as jokes for uncomfortable silence. Then we can look at their expression when they realize, what have we done? And its Pokedex entry says it has no say in where it's going. Game Freak, why do you make some Pokemon exist just to suffer? Bramblegeist isn't much better, as they basically just made it a little bigger and gave it a face. I'm surprised they didn't make it look like it was in pain.
3rd place.
I'll give Scarlet some credit. At least their past Pokemon had differing looks and names. I still wish they were more creative and stuck to the portmanteaus instead of just being straight up 2 words. But Violet got screwed over here! Future Pokemon all get iron in front of their names, and they all look like robots! I love me some futuristic sci-fi, but I don't want my Pokemon being robotnified! Do you want animals in the future to be robots instead of actual animals? Make them look sleek, give them visors and antennas, give them a shiny chrome touch! Oh wait. But this? If this is what Pokemon in the future look like, then I better head for the past. And that iron in their names is horribly misleading, as only one of them is a steel type! Which makes me ask once again, why do they all look like robots if only one of them is a typing that would, at the very least, be associated with robots? And what is with their Pokedex entries being more or less the same thing? We don't know anything except it matches the description from a journal. I know the Pokedex can be creepypasta fuel, but it's like you were trying to be disappointing on purpose.
2nd place.
Hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just change it so it's different enough. To be fair, Paldean Tauros does have other versions, but the vanilla version is straight up pathetic. Basically, one color scheme and no difference in design. Once again, patterns, colors, fold the tail into a fist to represent the fighting type that it is. Yeah, it's fighting, not dark. I hurt myself in confusion too. Just something more than the color scheme.
Who's that Pokemon?
Does it matter? You could cheat by switching them and we'd never know. I can't help but look at this and ask, how much time did you have to make this, Game Freak? Is Larry your spirit animal and self-reflection? You poor souls. So how do you top this? Are you sure you want to know?
Alright! First place!
There's no excuse for this one. Dunsparce was a Pokemon that was ultimately ignored since it came out in Gen 2, and fans were always hoping it would get a new form or a new evolution so it could have a chance to have a reason to exist. Over 20 years later, and we get what I'll say is the worst design of Gen 9.
How bad is it?
You've been looking at it this whole time. The differences are so minuscule, it's not worth going over. All you need to know is that the major difference is that it's bigger, has an extra belly with wings, and added an extra duh to the name. More like Dum Dum Sparse. And now I'm unoriginal enough to qualify making Pokemon designs. Fans have made their own versions of what they always wanted it to become, but I don't think anyone came up with this. It didn't have to be what we all wanted, because we all had different ideas. It just had to be good! But when it looks like it was done to be spiteful, you are better off not doing it in the first place. 20 years for this? Monkey's paw, am I right? Well, I feel like breaking those fingers off. And that'll do for this list, and if you have a difference of opinion, I'd like to hear what designs you thought were terrible in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Slightly bigger does not mean better.